And we are live, and we are back from holiday fun, back from a little bit of feeling under the weather. I'm Metrics, and to your left is your boy,
DJ TRIGGS.
and together we are Db8 Sports. And how about that? We got our boy DJ Triggs. He is using his phone. He is live from the bunker, witness protection, and bam, we are back, Triggs. How about that?
Man, it's crazy. It's like no more holidays for a while. I don't need any more holidays.
That is true. It feels like we've had holidays every single day of the past 2 weeks. Normally, when we have our show, so it's a little different getting used to. But bam, we're here. We're back. Triggs, it feels like you're in like a phone booth.
I,
Are you in a phone booth?
I kind of. I'm like trapped in here.
That's
I,
okay.
I can barely move my arms out.
Oh man, that's tough. That's tough. That's even more impressive. That's a trooper and a guy that is committed to the cause. I love it.
Oh, because I mean, totally time for a segue. Watch this. There was a pretty big holiday for me this weekend. Uh,
Oh,
uh,
ah,
uh, uh,
there it is.
just
There it
saying.
is. I
What
love it.
one of our teams is going to the playoffs.
That is true. We had our honorary playoff game last week. Basically, for us, it's just called smashing on the Denver Broncos. We do that twice a year, and that's our timely tradition. So that was our playoff game. So we enjoyed that. But I gotta admit, I am very excited for your team in the playoffs.
Oh, it is very exciting. Like even just I know. All right. So I don't put my like crazy fandom hat on very often,
Hmm.
but there's part of me that thinks we can beat Dallas.
Oh, and your boy over here in like the world that I actually have space that I can move my arms. I know it's a little tight quarters where you're at, but in this space over here, I firmly do believe that Green Bay can pull the supposed upset against Dallas, and I have two reasons for this. And I don't think this is as much of an upset as people think. I think people really got to take a step back and look at Dallas has been dominant against teams they should be dominant against, and they have definitely showed signs of I don't know, like I don't know what the word is exactly, but they're definitely like come back to earth, and they are beatable against certain other teams that are built in a certain manner. And I think when it comes to Dallas, if you take away CeeDee Lamb, they're in trouble. CeeDee Lamb is truly that offense. And yes, Dak Prescott's been playing good. Tony Pollard's been playing better. But if you shut down CeeDee Lamb, that's a problem. And what do you know? Green Bay's got one of the best nickel corners in the entire NFL in Jair Alexander. That guy has shut down Justin Jefferson in the past. He can absolutely shut down CeeDee Lamb. So that's a big thing. The other big thing is Dallas is one of those teams that has a great secondary. It is top notch. The nickel is, yeah, we know that guy's okay, but even he had like 5 or 6 pick sixes this season. Really good player there. But their outside corners are weapons. If you want to fight against that and you want to fight against a pass rush, run it down their throat. Use Aaron Jones, make that be the key point of the offense, and then have Jordan Love make his plays when the opportunity calls to it. So Aaron Jones plus Jair Alexander, I think those are highly realistic options, and those are the reasons why I think Green Bay will absolutely take down the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, that sounds amazing. That's no debate right there.
That's no
Uh,
debate. Exactly. And the
uh,
thing is too, I mean, when it comes to Dallas, it's a beautiful stadium. It's a nice stadium. But when it comes to fan bases in the NFL, yes, it is a large fan base, but it's not a notorious fan base that is like, oh, it's a deafening home field advantage. It's just not. It's a nice fan base. To me, it's like a white collar kind of fan base. it's not a like blue blood of like a Raider, Packer, or Steeler fan base. It's just a different kind of fan. There's a lot of them, but it's not like they're like deafening or like Buffalo Bills fans, you know. So that's why I just don't think a home game in Dallas is as terrifying as people think.
Right. They're more like Hollywood kind of. But
Yes,
like
like,
I'm excited to hear that someone else is kind of thinking the same way I'm thinking. Now,
oh
I don't
yeah,
I mean, Jair Alexander hasn't been like super, super, whatever this year,
he's been
but
hurt.
yeah, he's been hurt and he's had like games off. Plus, he had that suspension, which gave him an extra game off. Like,
Yep.
he's kind like he should be pretty healthy going into this.
Yes.
The big Achilles heel for the Packers is teams that run the ball well. Well, guess what? Dallas doesn't run the ball very well,
No.
and they're big on passing, which the Packers are a top 10 pass defense.
Yes.
Plus, they only give up about like 19 points a game. They're the bend don't
Mhm.
break mentality. And then on top of that, Dallas has been a little iffy against the pass, especially when it comes against, winning football teams.
Right.
I guess I can say that about the Packers now winning. Um,
Right.
and, I called them the NFC's Miami Dolphins. And
Yeah.
it,
Absolutely.
it's like, ooh, this could be the perfect matchup. Plus, don't have to worry about Jordan Love in the weather because it's in a dome.
Yep.
These fast guys on the outside, like Jaden Reed and Christian Watson, guys like that can literally just go off. Like, don't have to worry about
Absolutely.
slipping, in like a Chicago or a New York or somewhere like that where it could be
Yep.
nasty during this time of year, or even Green
Yeah.
Bay. Um, and then, like you said, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, I think, has every game he's been back has had 100 yards. Like, the dude
That's
is
huge.
just going off. I mean, he's no AJ Dillon, and you hear me about go off on AJ Dillon every week. AJ Dillon's actually hurt. So, not that I'm excited
Bingo.
that someone's hurt. I'm not that excited. I promise.
Sure.
But that means AJ Dillon's not going to get any carries. So, man, it is all setting up so perfectly. And then guess what? Who was the hottest quarterback since like week 10, week 11? Jordan Love.
Jordan Love.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah. And if we go back to, I want to say our last episode before we took off for the holidays, I think I brought up straight up that I would flat out take Jordan Love ahead of Patrick Mahomes, and I stick by that today. The just the crazy athleticism of Jordan Love and the kinds of progressions he's make and the fact that he's choosing tough progressions and making elite dynamic throws and executing them, that to me is telling me that he's playing on a different level. He is playing like Mahomes in his rookie season, or he's playing like, gosh, I don't know, like even Joe Burrow last season in a way. Like he's making those crazy progressions. He's completing touchdown passes without his feet on the ground. Um, it's pretty insane. And I want to say too, I think it's like over the last half of the games of the season, I think he's thrown 18 touchdowns and one interception. That's wild.
You are correct. I was going to bring that one up.
Yeah. Well, we
Yeah,
had a little Blair Witch going on your side, so I know that kind of throws things off for a bit. I know.
yeah, I can't bring up all my stats and all my good juicy stuff here. Um,
Yes.
but like we we got a segment coming up where we'll bring up
Uh-oh.
some more Jordan Love, Patrick Mahomes kind of comparison. So, uh,
Interesting.
yeah, there's a nugget for later. Just dropping that in there. But
That's a
yeah,
nugget. That's no debate.
we did talk about you know that I think I might have brought it up that he had more touchdowns and less interceptions than Patrick Mahomes did, and I
Wow.
mean that hasn't stopped in the last 2 3 weeks. He's been literally lighting people up. And the best part about it, and I give him all the credit, and I'm gonna give it, I know it's gonna sound weird, but I'm gonna give a little credit to Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers was notorious for this, where like he made guys like that you've never even heard of, MVS,
Yep.
just saying, look like superstars.
Yep.
And Jordan Love threw 2 touchdowns and 100 yards to Bo Melton. I didn't even like guy came off the practice squad because we didn't have receivers. And then at the end of the week, they signed him to a deal. I was like,
Wow.
oh, well, okay. He had 100, I think like 106 yards. He did drop the like sure like fire touchdown. I want to say in the Carolina game it was,
Yeah.
but like besides that, he like torched them, and I was just like, because even when they said his name, I was like, who is that? I've never
Yep.
even heard of him. And then they brought up that he was on the practice squad and blah blah blah. And like I said, midway through the week, they signed him to a deal. I was like, that's pretty dope.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the fact that we're seeing Jordan Love develop so many different wide receivers to me is incredibly impressive. It speaks volumes to me that the fact that he's doing this is showing that he's really growing as a quarterback. And I mean, I look at Patrick Mahomes and okay, cool. The best receivers I can say that the guy developed are like Mecole Hardman and Justin Watson and Rashi Rice. One of those three doesn't even play on that team anymore. From the guy that had probably the fastest wide receiver of our lifetime and the greatest tight end of our lifetime. Um, I don't know. I'm just personally I'm just not that impressed. I mean, things were great when he was young, but he's never had a good offensive line until about this season and last season. And all those hits are starting to add up. And his whole delivery, his mechanics, the fact that teams are dropping guys in coverage and really making a mess of the secondary for him is really screwing up his game. And if you're not a guy who has that quick progression and that athleticism, I think it just gets worse. And when you take that and you look at a guy like Jordan Love, who's going up against zone defenses like Brian Flores, which are disguising coverage and changing coverage midway through a play, and yet the fact that it goes from single high to two high safeties, and you pin the needle through both of those guys to Jaden Reed over the center for a touchdown. That's terrifying. That is next level quarterbacking by Jordan Love.
Right. And I mean, the way he torched Minnesota, I mean, yeah, our defense was kind of like lackadaisical against Carolina, but he put up points against them.
Yep.
Um, a touchdown got called back, or that would have been a, you know, uh, nearly a 3-score game with the Bears. Like it, his progression throughout this year has been insane,
Yes.
especially since like week 10, week 11, where like you even said like 18 touchdowns or something and 1 or 2 picks is like, whoa,
Yeah.
what is happening? And the big thing that I want to give credit to the defense, um, not to Joe Barry, not the defensive coordinator, but the actual defense. Um, Chicago was really hot coming into this game,
Oh yeah, they were. Yep.
and they completely shut down Justin Fields. Like
Yes.
his legs were non-existent. Like, I mean, what they scored 9 points. Like yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that even in that game, DJ Moore still looked like he was running around, still playing well like he does. But Justin Fields couldn't really find anyone else besides DJ Moore and couldn't make things happen. And where you thought that he would have guys open downfield, he didn't. And when he would try to take off from behind the line of scrimmage, he still wasn't able to pull that off easily either. And I think too, I mean, that's a game where, I mean, if you're Green Bay and you go up against Justin Fields, you basically kind of solidified that you made Justin Fields play his last game in Chicago. That's how good that defense actually played against him. So I give Green Bay's secondary a lot of credit for what they were dealing with.
Right. Yeah. True story. I don't
So
I don't know. I'm excited. That's all I know is I'm actually excited.
Absolutely, I think it's a cool run into the playoffs. I mean, I know my Raiders aren't in the playoffs, but I still love the way we finished the season under Antonio Pierce. We're 5-4. Plus, we got a coach fired from the Chargers, and then the very next week we go into Kansas City and we rain on their parade. So I
Yeah.
love that kind of stuff. Indy was definitely a tough matchup, but going up against Denver and a Sean Payton led team is still no easy feat. So to get 3 out of those last 4 is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we're not in the playoffs. I love the direction our team's going in, but we're gonna watch on the sidelines for now, and then we got some GM and coaching decisions to be made. But that's for another day. So
Right.
it is what it
And,
is.
and it's like I said to a Chicago Bears fan this past weekend, before the game, because he was all up in arms about knocking us out of playoffs and all that. And I'm like, and I thought, and maybe me, I'm not a delusional crazy fan.
Yeah.
Like I'm usually pretty realistic.
Right.
Um, and I just looked at him. I'm like, even if we lose, I'm totally happy. And
Yes.
he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, no one expected us to make the playoffs. I mean, I did at the beginning of the season said they had a shot.
I did.
Um, and yeah, you too. And like most big head celebrities on TV all were like, oh, they're horrible. And then remember, like, uh, what 6, 7 games into the season, everyone jumped off the Packer bandwagon. They're like,
I
"Oh,
did.
Jordan Love's horrible. He needs to get. They're not going to sign him. They need to get their quarterback of the future. This and that." And like it was just all fire and downhill. And
Yeah.
I said to this guy, I go, "So even if we don't make the playoffs, Jordan Love looks like the guy.
Yeah, he
Uh,
does.
like our wide receiver core looks pretty solid. Our defense, to a certain extent, looks pretty okay. Like I I was okay if we didn't make the playoffs. And then the fact that we made it, even if Dallas goes out there and just completely obliterates us,
Yeah.
whatever. No one expects us to win anyway. Like,
Exactly. I think any experience that this team gains moving forward is a huge plus. And in the way too, I mean, with my Raiders, like I feel like that's something that can be gained moving forward too. We have very little playoff experience. Anything you can take from your guys to win and move forward is a huge plus. But the benefit that the Green Bay Packers have over everyone else is no one on that team is getting paid outside of Aaron Jones, and that's a
yep,
running back. So that is huge. I mean, we're looking at probably some kind of fairly large contract coming Jordan Love's way within the next season or two. But other than that, I mean, the team can even say, like, flat out, well, we don't really need to spend money at wide receiver because this kid, Jordan Love, can develop wide receivers. He can
yep,
develop tight ends. That's something that a lot of these other teams in the NFL are scratching their heads because they're like, well, we paid the quarterback. Now we have to pay one of these other skill positions because we need that yin to complement the yang. Whereas Green Bay is like, well, we've seen this kid grow, and pretty much the sky's the limit for Jordan Love.
yeah. Like, and that's another thing. Like, too, is I was kind of sitting there trying to think about that, but like the off season and stuff like that. It's like, okay, our skill positions, our offense, tight end, wide receiver, running back, quarterback, all set. Yeah, we could probably use like a an offensive lineman or two, but they haven't been horrible.
Yes.
Um, and I mean, we are still paying Bakhtiari, so like
Okay.
highest paid left tackle in the league at one point.
Right.
Um, so his money's either coming off the books or he's coming back and playing. So
Right.
either way, that's a positive.
Yep.
Defensively, we have a really good pass rush. We
Yes.
got Van Ness last year. Uh, then we got Devondre Campbell, and obviously Jair Alexander is one of the best corners in the league. Like
Yep.
Kenny Clark's one of the best nose tackles in the league. Like we literally have all of this talent around, and like you said, we still have money. Like It's
Yes.
not like we're just going to we're the youngest team in the NFL. We're the youngest team to ever make the playoffs. It's like all of this, like, and most of these guys are still on rookie deals. Like, they're not even coming up for extension for a year or two. And it's like, you could literally just go into the draft and go, best guy available. Oh, okay, there's a corner there. We may need a safety. I would say a safety, a kicker, so offensive line depth, and maybe like some running back depth. And
Right.
it's like, but none of that is really a push. Like, we could just kind of play around and figure out who's out there.
Exactly. And I think for players who are thinking about what they want to do to better their career and go to a championship contending team for the foreseeable future, like people did with Tom Brady and the Patriots or Mahomes and the Chiefs, I think team players are going to start to seriously consider Green Bay with what Jordan Love can do because you have all this talent around you on offense. Now offensive linemen can say, yeah, that's a team I want to go to because if I can protect all that, I know my offense can hang like 30 points a game. And then your defense is going to attract players that are like, well, we got our own attitude on defense. And not only that, we have to play against that gunslinging offense every single day in practice. Iron sharpens iron. It's almost like the New Orleans Saints back when Drew Brees was in his heyday.
Nice. Yeah, I'm just excited. But what about the rest of the playoffs? Who you got looking around in there?
Yeah, so definitely looking in the NFC. Yes, Green Bay and Dallas. I do like Green Bay quite a bit. There's another upset, sorta, that I definitely see in the NFC. Actually, I think they both technically would be. But the one that I see with a team that's trailing in the wrong direction is really starting to lose their identity on offense, is getting really banged up, is really has no idea what is going on defense, yet I held on them forever in fantasy and I did all right, but this is definitely a second year and done kind of thing. I think Tampa Bay can beat Philadelphia in a way that kind of Tampa Bay beat the Green Bay Packers.
Yep.
And they can provide a ton of problems with just how they are meticulous in operating that offense, and they have a top Bulls defense. So I think they can absolutely cause issues against Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia, since that Buffalo game, is completely in a downward spiral that they cannot get out of.
Yeah. I am in total agreement right there. Like, I don't know what happened to Philly. They were 10-1, and then all of a sudden it was over. So they're in there. Like, that 10-1 team is still, because remember, they were beating like the best teams in the league at the time.
They
It's
were.
still in there somewhere.
It
But
is.
like, Tampa Bay is on a roll. But then,
Yes.
like, the thing that bugs me though about Tampa is they literally just beat Carolina 9-0. So like, I was
True.
like, you completely obliterate the Packers, who were on this run, like 6-2 in the last eight, I believe, and then like Carolina is like, no, you're not going to score against us either. Like,
True.
so that kind of worries me. But like, Philly's secondary is bad. You've talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
And look at this Giants game. Their starters were in there for the entire first half. Hurts gets hurt. Was it AJ Brown got hurt? Or was
Yes.
it, yeah, and it's like, now you're limping to go into the playoffs. You just got smashed by the Giants. Like, it is all downhill.
It is. And I think they're looking at this game too. And this is where I've had issues with Philadelphia, even going back to last season. Basically, I don't know. I mean, I've kind of always had this issue with them since they unloaded Zach Ertz to the Arizona Cardinals. I don't think they have any kind of game in their offense for the slot position. I mean, Dallas Goedert's pretty good, but still, it's like they don't really use them as much as they should. They absolutely have no slot wide receiver whatsoever. Yes, AJ, what is it? Julio Jones has been there for a good amount of time this season, and lately he's been playing more significant time. But with like what you said with AJ Brown being hurt, I think Julio's going to have to actually cover for AJ Brown. And then you have Devontae Smith. Jalen Hurts, we know, is banged up. You have nothing going on in the middle of the field. Really, DeAndre Swift is probably their best running back. It's confusing. It is really, really bizarre what's going on with this team. And then even in the secondary, their first round draft pick they drafted out of Georgia, he's not really getting much pressure to opposing quarterbacks. I just don't think this is a good football team anymore. And I think too, like a lot of the games they won in the first half of the season were very tight. They were single digit wins, barely winning against Dallas, Kansas City, and Buffalo. And those tight wins come back to bite you at some point later in time, kind of like what we saw with Minnesota for part of the season after all the narrow victories they had last year. So I think Philly is going through a really tough stretch. But the biggest thing, too, that's playing a part in this, too, and this is where we give credit to Tampa and some of these other teams, but it can have a negative effect when you lose multiple coordinators, when you lose a defensive coordinator, when you lose an offensive coordinator. And then I thought this was really interesting. I noticed that Tampa Bay got the offensive coordinator from the Seattle Seahawks last year who did really good things with Geno Smith. So he is now in Tampa, and he's doing really great things developing Baker Mayfield, and that offense is kicking. They're doing a lot of great things with Rashad White. Mike Evans is still a 1,000-yard receiver. His stats are crazy. I mean, of any guy who I know who's of this newer generation who's a bona fide Hall of Famer, it's Mike Evans. He is insane. I mean, I even remember in years where we doubted the guy and people were like, oh, well, should we start writing him off? Well, he had a game where he had only like 2 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's how good this guy is. He can do like nothing and still have big touchdown games. So that stuff is crazy. But when I look at coordinators again, well, who's now the coordinator in Seattle, right? Because Seattle's former OC is now in Tampa. I have familiarity with this because I saw this guy with Derek Carr, and it didn't really work. It got a little clunky, a little stale. He's one of John Gruden's guys, and that's Greg Olson. Greg Olson is now in Seattle, and what do you know? Geno Smith he's okay. Like, he's developing DK Metcalf, so I finally give him credit for that. JSN is looking pretty good too, but there were times where that offense is weird, and Greg Olson, I like the guy, but when it comes to being an OC, I would definitely be leery of teams where he is the OC of.
That makes sense. Yeah, like can't argue with that. Now, the one I feel like I feel like you're gonna differ with me on this one.
Okay.
I actually think the LA Rams. I almost said St. Louis. The LA Rams are going to beat the Detroit Lions.
I think the LA Rams are going to beat all of the NFC teams. That is my Super Bowl team. That's no debate. That's no debate.
Oh my gosh!
They even should have beat your Super Bowl pick in the AFC against Baltimore, but they lost a crazy game in OT. Other than that, that's like the only loss they've had over the last 7 weeks.
Yeah, they have been on fire.
Yes.
And when we were talking about playoff scenarios, the one team that was worrying me, I was like, oh no, the Rams are going to bump the Packers out of the playoffs.
Yep.
But no, the Matt Stafford, Jared Goff Bowl, man, the Lions have not, and I know I've said this all year, but the Lions haven't really worried me. They've been in a division where Minnesota was down because Kirk Cousins was hurt. Justin Fields was hurt a lot. The Packers were trying to figure out their stride. And then oddly enough, the Packers got their stride when they beat the Lions on Thanksgiving, I want to say.
Yes.
And it's like the Lions don't scare me at all. They're just there.
Yeah, and at some point, I think you got to take records and you really got to look at them and say they're not really quite what they're telling you. And there's at least four teams that I can say that about. Detroit is one of them. Dallas is one of them. Miami is one of them, and Kansas City is one of them. All of them got this like somewhat good-looking record, but when you watch them play, they're not really good-looking teams. And the main
Well,
concerns
Philly.
I have with Detroit is yes, they are one of the best teams in the NFL against the run. They can absolutely stop the run. But a lot of today's NFL is built on the pass. So if you have to abandon any part of the game, you'd rather abandon the rush than the pass. So that's a factor against them. Green Bay played really, really well against Detroit. So I look at that, and to me, it kind of reminds me of my AFC West, where I look at the NFC North, and really the best team I think in the division right now is Green Bay. In my AFC West, I know the season's over, but I think we are the best team in the division with my Raiders. I think we can absolutely supersede Kansas City and move past them, and the other two teams were already better than. So you look at that and you're like, okay, cool. So Green Bay should be better than Detroit. Well, there's a few other teams that are better than Detroit. Dallas is better than Detroit. I know people want to say, oh, the way that game ended, weird substitution not being reported, yada, yada. Okay, well, CeeDee Lamb also had a fumble rooski at the goal line that if that ball didn't go out of bounds, they would have had a 7-point lead and would have easily cruised to win that game. So things like that. I know Detroit is worse than Green Bay. They're worse than Dallas. They're definitely not better than San Francisco. They have to play against the LA Rams. They're better than Tampa, I think, but even then, I'm not totally sure about that. So it's almost like the only team in that conference that I can say Detroit is truly better than is Philadelphia.
Yeah. And if it's Philadelphia from the beginning of the season, maybe not. Who knows? Could be a toss
Exactly.
up.
Exactly. And the big thing too that's a point of concern with Detroit is they will go into this game without Sam Laporta. I know there was something said by the coach that yeah, there might be a chance. No, actually, like legit people who I know who really cover players and injuries and whatnot. No, Sam Laporta is not playing on this game this upcoming weekend. He has a serious knee injury, and you are not going to run a guy out there like 5 to 6 days after he incurred that. So it's not
Yep.
going to happen. I will give Detroit credit. The other tight end, Brock Wright, is actually pretty good. So if you are a fantasy owner like next season, definitely take Sam Laporta. He deserves a really strong look, but be ready and get Brock Wright, depending on the depth of your league. He is definitely a sizable component that can absolutely execute those kind of plays, especially when your head coach is a former tight end himself. So it is what it is. Is he as good as Sam Laporta? Probably not. But losing that part of your offense right before the playoffs, I think, is a major cause of concern. I think they needed maybe a week or two to kind of figure out the change in their offense for that. And I also think Jamison Williams is not 100% either. And I know Amon-Ra St. Brown's been really banged up. So you got like three guys in that receiving game that are all like have serious injuries going on.
Yep. And that's like it may sound crazy. Well, it shouldn't if you watch Detroit Lion games, but like
Yeah.
Laporta is basically their number two wide receiver. Like
Yeah.
they're we thought they were gonna have, some depth at wide receiver, but like none of those guys have really come on at all. So like it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, and then everybody else.
Yeah. And it
Usually
took
David Montgomery.
Yeah, exactly. David Montgomery's balling out. I think that teams has really good pieces, but they still need more time to figure out that offense between Jamison Williams getting hurt and suspended. You really had another year of not knowing what is up with that guy.
Yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs, easily the NFL season was way too much for that guy out of the gates. I think him having an off season, time to rest, and time to really develop and grow his game, he's really going to benefit from an off season. And I don't know. I mean, I think too, Amon-Ra St. Brown did really well. The fact that he's not in the Pro Bowl doesn't make any sense. But I think this team just needs more time to develop and then to improve on that secondary they got.
That should be everything in the NFC, right? What do we got over in the AFC?
Yeah. So in the AFC, we start with Pittsburgh against Buffalo. And I think the tough one in that is that I saw it happen live. I was actually streaming the game. I saw it, and losing TJ Watt right before the playoffs, that's devastating. I think
Yeah.
that seriously hurts their chances against Buffalo. And that's a really tough one to lose there. And it is a home game for Buffalo too. So it's going to be a crazy crowd to deal with.
Right. And that one's one of those, like, real quick, is like, I knew Pittsburgh couldn't handle them offensively or like keep up with points, but their
Yeah.
defense is so good that they could
Yes.
shut down a Buffalo, especially, you know, Josh Allen's going to give you one or two picks every game. So,
He
like,
will.
this is the type of team with a TJ Watt pass rush that could have literally had a chance. Now I'm leaning pretty much on Buffalo, but like it's gonna be kind of bummy to watch.
Yeah. And the thing that's wild about this too is I want to say Pittsburgh is probably the only team in the NFL that I'm like, yeah, they have two legitimate number one wide receivers. If that team figures it out at quarterback at any point in the near future, that is terrifying.
Yeah,
Deontay Johnson is insane, especially in separation. And George Pickens is absolutely as good as we thought he was coming out of Georgia.
right. He's definitely pretty good.
Yeah. So we got all that going on with Pittsburgh and Buffalo. So I'm definitely a Buffalo person. And that is my Super Bowl pick out of the AFC now.
Oh,
So yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, I placed a NFL Super Bowl bet on where I think teams are going to fall, and yes, there was a little concern with Buffalo because they didn't clinch, but I do like the style that team has played ever since they fired Ken Dorsey. I think they're playing a full, complete style of football. They do different things on offense, and not only that, Josh Allen has been playing worse, and the team has played better and they've gone on an absolute heater since they were, I want to say, 6-6 to finish the season at 11-6, I believe. Yeah, they're really showing that they can win multiple ways. So I like the potential on this team. My concern though is definitely them losing Gabe Davis. That could come back and hurt them.
they're starting to run the football, which is a big positive for them because normally
Yeah.
it's just let's chuck it down the field and hope for the best.
Yep.
But
Yeah. But I did enjoy seeing Leonard Fournette the other night too. I think that's a huge piece to have that ability to go to that kind of guy at this point in the postseason. To me, that's pretty insane. So I like that. I think that'll pay dividends once they get going. But the other games, the game that I'm kind of bummed out that we have to lose one of these teams is Cleveland and the Texans.
yeah,
Man,
oh,
that is a bummer.
right, like that. Oh, like this is gonna sound insane, completely insane. Cleveland could go to the Super Bowl. Like,
Absolutely.
what? Like
Yes.
they're so good on deep. Like they're one of the best defense. I think they are. No, they're right behind Baltimore as
Yeah.
like the best defense in the league, and like they just got better on the pass rush, and then on top of that, Joe Flacco is making like no mistakes.
Yes. It's pretty crazy how he's found the fountain of youth. DJ Moore is definitely starting to find his way in that offense. David Njoku looks insane at tight end. And when he's out there, Amari Cooper is playing probably the best football of his career right now as a Cleveland Brown. So I love seeing all that stuff come into play. It is why from the get-go of the season, I definitely had high hopes on Cleveland. So I'm glad they're definitely showing up for that. But definitely my concern is that the Texans are a really good football team.
Yeah.
You know they play really good defense. To me, the moment that they really proved that they are as good as any other team in the AFC was the game they won at Cincinnati against Joe Burrow. This is a healthy Joe Burrow. And for most of the game, you had a healthy Jamar Chase until he took a really, really bad hit. So, yeah, the way the Texans won that game on the road at Cincinnati, to me, that showed right then and there that that was truly a playoff team.
Yeah, I agree. Like Houston's hit that stride where it's like rookie quarterback, rookie head coach. Like they're doing things that like no one thought Nico Collins was going to be like a top-notch wide receiver this year. Like these things are just I it's almost just as surprising as the Packers, to be honest. They're like the Packers of the AFC.
Exactly. And I look at that too. And CJ Stroud is developing multiple wide receivers for the Texans. If you're a starting receiver for the Texans, you're going to be wanted to be owned in fantasy. That's how good CJ Stroud is he can make huge games out of any Houston Texans wide receiver. So it's pretty crazy what's going on there. And I almost thought it was kind of a bad idea, almost like a DeAndre Hopkins to the Tennessee Titans, to see Brandon Cooks go from the Texans to the Dallas Cowboys. It's kind of working out for him, but in a way, I think he easily regrets not staying on the Texans now and being able to play with CJ Stroud.
Right. And yeah, he went from 1,000-yard wide receiver every year to like a 2 or 3
Yeah,
at best.
yeah, it is at best with that, and just like the comparison that you made too with C.J. Stroud and being the Packers of the AFC. Honestly, for the fantasy football quarterbacks of next season, those are the top 2 guys I'm looking at. I'm really only looking at Jordan Love and C.J. Stroud, and honestly, I think I have more faith and just like knowing that my quarterback's going to deliver with Jordan Love, because we've seen what the bad side of Jordan Love is, and we've seen him rise above that. This upcoming season, I think Stroud plays well, but now teams are going to start to roll that tape against him, and they're going to start to say, oh, how can we win against him? What kind of mistakes is he making, even though there's very few of him. But seeing those 2 quarterbacks make the big throws they make downfield, that's why I love CJ Stroud, and it's why I love Jordan Love moving forward. So it is what it is. But for this Browns-Texans game, based on the toughness I've seen out of the Texans, that's who I'm sticking with. I'm going with the Texans in this game.
Nice. I'm leaning towards the Browns just because I don't really trust the Houston like run game very much. And I just was thinking about it like when you were talking about Jordan Love and CJ Stroud, like
Yeah.
Love can lean back on Aaron Jones. And look how crazy this team has been since like Aaron Jones has been healthy.
Yep.
Um, like there's no more 2 and 3 yards of carry. Now it's like this dude's popping off for like 6, 7 yards of carry. Um,
Yes.
and Houston, I just don't feel that with their run game.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely times earlier in the season where I felt like Devin Singletary was making that happen, considering that Stroud was such a deep ball threat, and then Singletary could take off for a good 7, 8 yards of carry. Now it's a little different. We'll see what it is, but yeah, you bring up a great point where if I have to rely on either running back, I would definitely want to rely more on Jerome Ford
Yeah.
and that run blocking scheme that Cleveland's run. And even since losing Nick Chubb, I mean, they really haven't missed a beat. And we pointed that out in fantasy earlier in the season too, that you wanted both those guys because that offense is just such a engine. It just keeps moving the way it does. So I think the combination of Flacco and Jerome Ford is going to be pretty tough to stop. But I've seen them do it against Cincinnati, and I see similarities with how Cincinnati played and how Cleveland plays now. So that's what I'm going with.
Nice. All right, here's the
Cool.
big one. I'm excited to hear your Kansas City take.
Yeah, the unfortunately, this I think is the one game that Kansas City wins, and this is probably the one opponent that they wanted to see because you got some weird stuff going on with the Miami Dolphins. Jalen Waddle's banged up. Tyreek Hill's got issues off the field. And then their defense has just gotten decimated, losing Bradley Chubb to an ACL, losing multiple linebackers. They've lost like 5 of their starters on defense recently. So and not only that, I mean, this matchup did occur in the regular season and Kansas City won it. But yeah, I mean, the thing that I think about this game is what if Vic Fangio figures it out? What if he figures out how to scheme up a defense despite losing those key components on defense because their offense is clearly better than Kansas City's?
That's true. And I don't trust Tua. That's
Sure.
the part of the game where like I know Patrick Mahomes has been there. He's done that. Yeah, his offense is pretty bad, but sometimes these playoff games come down to like 2 or 3 big offensive plays,
Yeah.
and I know Patrick Mahomes has that in him.
Yes.
I'm just not sure if Tua's got it.
Right. And the thing is too, I mean, they took a week off. They didn't have anything to play for. So in a way, this was their bye week. That gives them time to rest. We know Kelsey, once he has a rest, is actually really, really good. And I think too that Kansas City defense is going to be leaned on. Isaiah Pacheco should be healthier. That pass rush, that Steve Spagnuolo style of bringing the house, I think that's terrifying for Tua. And that's the worst possible thing that he could see. The coverage, the corners for Kansas City between Snead and the other corner they have, those guys are excellent. That defense that Kansas City has is really fun to watch. It's really top notch. So for those reasons, that's why I'm picking Kansas City. Who in the world they would play after this week? I think it would be possibly at Buffalo. I think that goes a lot differently. But I think Kansas City will get one win against Miami. Ironically, I think whoever wins this game, I think they end up losing the very next week.
Right. And then, I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yep. So I think we have one. Oh no, that's all the games.
That's it.
That's it. That's no debate right there. That is every single game for the wild card round of these playoffs.
You know what that means, right? You're gonna have to cue it up.
That means I'm gonna have to go 5 up for no debate.
Boom! There it is.
Boom! There it is. And let me see if I can run. Where is our little banner or whatever it is? Where is it? Oh, here we go. Got it. Boom. There it is, Triggs.
Okay. So, number one, the biggest off-season question that I have for you. These are all over the place. I'm coming at you with some fire.
Nice. Straight fire.
Uh-oh. Do you keep Justin Fields or draft a quarterback? And with keeping Justin Fields, do you take Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Interesting. So I am actually going to do, let me see here. So I want to see if there's a way I can get both. Oh, man, I don't know if I can get, actually, I think I can. But the thing is, like, you got to know what is your other plan of quarterback of who you'd want to go to. I would, boy, this is going to sound wild, But if I'm Chicago, I think I trade back to number 3. We know Arizona is going to trade to 4. If I'm Chicago, I go from 1 to 2. Then I trade from 2 to 3. And I sent Justin Fields packing. I draft. Oh, wait, no, this doesn't work. Oh, man, because you need 2 picks before Arizona. So I would want a way to make this happen, but I think you have to get rid of Justin Fields. I think he proved against Green Bay that he's not really the future. And if that's the case, if you have to bail on all your plans and go with one failsafe, I think truly the failsafe is draft Caleb Williams. And I've been saying that for quite a while now. I still think that's the plan. And honestly, I mean, looking at what Jim Harbaugh did in Michigan, that's what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to see some weird stuff over the next couple of weeks. And then I think out of left field, we're going to see the Chicago Bears fire Matt Eberflus, hire Jim Harbaugh, and draft Caleb Williams.
Oh, wow. See, I'm actually on the opposite right now.
Okay.
I'm thinking keep Justin Fields, surround him with weapons. Now, at the beginning of this season, there was a lot of hype about, a full season with DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet. They didn't do much with the run game. I like Rashawn Johnson, but for some reason they didn't want to give him the ball.
Yes.
Deontay Foreman and Khalil Herbert are blah.
Yes.
And then if you get Marvin Harrison, there are a couple other quarterbacks like Drake May and guys like that that you could possibly get with that next pick.
So it's almost like you move up with a second pick.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. And even if you have to sit at that spot, like I think one of those quarterbacks will be there because a lot of the top teams or the top drafting teams may not actually need quarterbacks. So like I would say there's probably like 4 quarterbacks or so that I'm like, all right, I could take that guy and be okay. Because remember, sometimes it's not always the number 1 pick that hits, and like it would suck if they like don't do anything to surround Caleb Williams with weapons, and then he's just
Justin Fields 2.0.
Exactly.
Yeah. So of all these quarterbacks, Drake May is the one that I have no tape on. I've not seen the guy play. I know nothing about him really besides that, he's the other guy after Caleb Williams. That's the only thing I know about him. But when it comes to the scheme of working your way through the draft to build the best possible offensive lineup you can, I've talked to multiple people who are friends of mine that are Bears fans, and they say the exact same thing. The cool thing that my one friend who's really deep with the Chicago Bears is he was thinking trade from 1 to 2, 2 to 3. At 3, draft Marvin Harrison. At 2, you would have the Denver Broncos potentially trading all the way up to 2. And in that scenario, possibly acquiring Menzel Mims from Denver. And then at 3, draft Marvin Harrison, take DJ Moore, put him in the slot because we saw against Green Bay and Chicago in the game before Green Bay. I forgot who it was. But DJ Moore in the slot is like CeeDee Lamb. It's crazy. So if you put Moore in the slot, Marvin Harrison outside, Menzel Mims outside, those are weapons. Those are absolute weapons for whoever is playing quarterback. And then, yes, reset the quarterback market with your second overall pick. But if you're saying, like, is there going to be any difference in having to deal with money between Justin Fields and Caleb Williams? I say there is not. And I say they are equal when it comes to seeing a quarterback make a demand for big contract money because, yes, Fields is making his way up there. But when you look at Caleb Williams and kind of what his father is doing, to me, it reminds me a lot of was it Lamar Ball, the Ball brothers, their father. I think after year 2, if Caleb Williams has a great rookie season and a great sophomore season in the NFL, I think he's going to demand big quarterback money in year 3. I think it immediately comes up in year 3, and I think he is all about the money, all about himself, and he does not care about those other young guys on the team. And that's where I think Chicago would be in a bad position that they don't want to be in. So I think they should go with any other quarterback that is not Caleb Williams and not Justin Fields.
And that is what people don't talk about. So one of the reasons that I know people have been putting him to the moon. He's the best quarterback prospect since, XYZ. And he is like, there's so much drama around him. And just like you
Yeah.
said about his dad and stuff like that, like he doesn't come from a winning culture. Like,
No.
so at the end of the day, if you take that drama and he's not a winner, well, yeah, perfect for the Chicago Bears. Drama and not winning. Like,
Yes.
yeah, that's a Packers shot right there.
It
I
is.
know what I did. But like you do that and then you're like, oh, well, now we just wasted another pick. Well, you already know what Justin Fields is, and if you get him weapons, you fill some spaces around him, you might actually have a shot. But right now, like if you bring in Caleb Williams and you put all of this stock in him, you're kind of shot if he's a bust.
Yeah. Yeah. And I look at that and I would say, okay, cool. Like what's a guy who I think can develop, get better, has a good pedigree behind him. I look at a guy like whether it's Jaden Daniels, who just won the Heisman,
Yep.
or I think a guy like Bo Nix would work out really well because those guys both kind of came up from colleges where they didn't really succeed on their first go around. So they
Yep.
transferred to another college and had really good success. I think that's exactly what they need. As well as if I'm Chicago, I definitely hold on to Tyson Bagent as well. I think both those quarterbacks work well with Bagent, and if you lose one, you got the other. So I think
And
that's exactly what you need, and build those weapons with those wideouts.
and that's why I was saying like you could get Marvin Harrison because he's like above and beyond the best prospect to me
Yes.
at least.
Yep.
Like and I said there's like 4 or 5 quarterbacks. Because you didn't even say Penix Jr. And like that dude's he's got a cannon. Um,
Yes.
like there are 4 or 5 quarterbacks, and not all of those guys are going to get picked in the top 10. Someone's going to fall to 10, and they'll be able to pick between those guys. And you should be able to develop each one of those guys to at least be a solid starter.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, for all the quarterbacks, again, like the only one that I don't really feel comfortable taking is Drake May. But I definitely know between Penix, Daniels, and Nix, I know those guys are going to be real gritty and they're going to work really hard. And I think they're going to do well for whatever franchise they end up going to.
Yeah, and then think about it: a rookie quarterback throwing to Marvin Harrison, DJ Moore, and Cole Kmet. Like,
Whoa.
and if you find yourself a running back in the 3rd or 4th round where all these super cool running backs are popping up,
Yep.
like you're set on offense. Just get some offensive linemen and boom.
And go. Yeah,
All right.
I mean that's why I think next season I think if that rookie quarterback is a hit and can have really good success, I think next year flat out the NFC North will be between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. I think Detroit will take a massive step back next season.
Yeah, because they'll have to start paying some guys.
Yep.
So this next one's gonna be really quick.
Sure.
Backstory. I had kind of a headbutting contest with a buddy of mine. He's a big Chicago Bears fan.
Sure.
Um, and I was in Illinois all weekend, so there was
Nice.
a lot of Chicago Green Bay hate, and I was just like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Um, do you think DJ Moore is an elite wide receiver?
Absolutely. He
Oh,
is. Yeah. Yeah.
surprise!
Yeah, absolutely. I saw it on my team. I mean, once he really developed with Justin Fields, you really saw it take off. The way he runs routes is absolutely gorgeous. The fact too, like that I see putting DJ Moore in the nickel is really going to take off. He's a guy that I think, and yes, I really agree that the plan of trading back and acquiring more wide receiver talent is going to happen. But I still think he's, at the end of the day, he's going to be like a CeeDee Lamb next season, and he's just really going to take off. Is just a compliment to how good this guy is, despite really not having the greatest quarterback talent in Carolina or in Chicago. But he is getting up there in years now, too, so you got to be a little careful on that. I took him in round 3. I want to say, like, depending on the depth of your league, if it's a bigger league, I would say definitely the end of round 2 or the beginning of round 3 is where I put him at. But he's a guy who's going to still have massive, massive games for you. So for any guy who can put up almost 30 points, I mean, I had a game where he almost put up 50. That's pretty terrifying.
See, I went the opposite way, and I said he wasn't elite because I could name 10 wide receivers easily that are better than him. And that's almost my kind of like our bona fide
Yes.
ranking.
Yep.
Like, I know ours is, 20, but like I was thinking, I'm like, there's no way I can put that guy as an elite because like he played for Carolina and Chicago, and just like we said, they didn't have any weapons besides him. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, he was the number one, but I almost took it as like empty calories. Like Carolina had to throw the ball a lot because they were down a lot. Chicago in the last couple of years has always had to throw the ball a lot because they were down a lot. And then on both of those teams, besides with Christian McCaffrey doing his thing when he wasn't hurt, like
Yep.
running back or the run game of both of those teams was non-existent. And
Yep.
that was like it just I can't put him over certain guys because there's too many receivers that I'm like, oh, DJ Moore, this guy, well, that guy, DJ Moore, this guy, that guy. So I don't know. His numbers are really good this year, and I give him all the credit. I think he's at like 1,300 and like 8 touchdowns, which
Yeah.
are all career highs, like
Yep.
complete career highs. But
Yep.
yeah, I don't know. I just couldn't put him as elite.
Yeah, I think in the NFC, the only 2 receivers that I think I would want more of than him are Puka Nakua and Jaden Reed. I think those are the only 2 that I really want ahead of him. Justin
Wait,
Jefferson has hamstring issues. So like
well,
that's
okay. You're thinking in like fantasy production, correct?
yeah.
Like I was thinking just overall, like yeah, Justin Jefferson got hurt this year, but like
Yep.
at the beginning of the season, I would have been like Justin Jefferson. And even in these
Yeah.
last couple of games, Justin Jefferson's been pretty solid. Like
Sure.
I was thinking Jefferson, AJ Brown. I would probably take Devontae Smith over him.
CeeDee
Amon Ra,
Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb,
Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like
That I disagree on.
I would say they're pretty close though.
They are.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
that's 5 right there. And we haven't even talked about like Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Chase in Cincinnati,
I would
Tyreek
take
Hill.
I'll tell you what, I'd take DJ Moore ahead of all 3 of those. Those I would.
Rit
Yep.
of Jamar Chase?
Yeah. I mean, Jamar Chase is hurt.
Well,
He can make
yeah,
some great plays. I give him that. But I'm telling you, man, like right now, you're seeing some crazy creativity of how he runs routes that I just have not seen out of DJ Moore now. I mean, like to me, it's looking like how he plays to really reminds me of Odell Beckham in his prime. It's up there with that. It's a totally different animal. And I think too, if Chicago truly puts him in the slot, he really is like CeeDee Lamb. And this will happen if Marvin Harrison is on that team, because Marvin Harrison outside is going to get the number 1 coverage from the corners that he's facing outside. DJ Moore in the slot is going to be he's going to get the 3 more often than not, unless it's Jair Alexander. So that kind of ability against that lackluster coverage is really going to pay dividends for him next season. I think it's I really think the sky's the limit for a guy like that.
See, this is why No Debate Sports is awesome. Because
Yes.
I'm like I'm definitely not saying he's elite, but you kind of got me a little bit like I'm like, okay, I can see some of this because like
Yes.
injuries, I understand injuries, but like Devontae Adams had like I mean, he's on your team. He had
Yeah.
a tomato can throwing him the ball. So I
He
don't
did.
even know, but he's still Devontae Adams, so I have to give him the benefit of the doubt.
I also
Jamar
saw
Chase,
weird drops out of Devontae Adams this year that I don't like seeing.
yeah, but who knows if that was just effort? Like he was just like, oh, F
It's
this
both.
team, like
Yeah.
somebody trade me, But
Yeah.
like Jamar Chase, yeah, he's injured, but like until Joe
He's
Burrow comes
special.
back and yeah, he's special. So I can't really doubt him.
So my
Stephon Diggs,
reasoning there too with Jamar Chase, which is a great point you bring up, is Jamar Chase began to play some of that slot position this year. Pretty much everything before this season he was playing outside, but towards the middle to the end of this season he started playing more in that slot against the nickel. But I
right?
think I think DJ Moore just plays it better. I think DJ Moore can play the slot better than Jamar Chase, flat out. And I think teams are now recognizing against Jamar Chase, we put two guys on him outside. We can pretty much deal with him. We can pretty much bottle him up if that's the case. So that's where my Jamar Chase thing changes with what's going on with DJ Moore. Plus, we're looking at next season. That will be a year that T. Higgins pretty much is gone from that team. So I think now you got more attention coming to Jamar Chase. Ugh, man, it's gonna be a little tough sledding for Cincinnati, but it's so cool. It's so different. For me, this came last season where I was with you. I just didn't believe in DJ Moore, and then my team that's 15-0 coming off a bye, I go up against DJ Moore in the playoffs. The Tom Brady Carolina Panthers game to end the season, and they both exploded. DJ Moore just went off, and I got torched by DJ Moore, and that's why he was in my radar this season. And it was a little tough at times, but there are plenty of games where DJ Moore was just consistently the best receiver for my team and easily for the Chicago Bears, and pretty much getting like 15 fantasy points almost every single week.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I'm gonna rapid fire some of these. I
Yes.
know we're over the hour.
Oh,
All right.
yeah, we are.
So this one is big. So the guy was the runner-up to the MVP last year and does not make a Pro Bowl this year. Is Jalen Hurts overrated?
I think he is. And for me, it sucks because I think it's happening because I think ultimately his body's breaking down. And yes, I love the whole brotherly shove thing, but I think it's actually doing detrimental damage to his body. And I was more intrigued by just kind of the style of athleticism that he had before he really bulked up. To me, I thought he was kind of going to become almost like another Lamar Jackson kind of prototype. But then he bulked up and it changed. And I still think he has really great throwing mechanics, but I think his whole body is messed up right now. So I think they kind of did like what they did with Carson Wentz, where I think they gave him that contract a year too early. And now he's a
Yeah.
guy who's banged up. And just like these other guys like Burrow, Mahomes, Rodgers, all these guys who have massive contracts, their bodies are banged up and they really screwed up on paying those guys way too soon.
And then so I also feel like he's overrated. I mean, he's 14th in touchdowns, 14th in yards, 12th
Yeah.
in QBR. Like
Yep.
he's not even a top 10 quarterback by any means.
No.
Um, so this next one is kind of it's going to be a DJ Triggs rant here for a second.
Yes.
Uh, the Pro Bowl. I am so upset about the Pro Bowl and like the picks in the Pro Bowl. I got
Yeah.
two snubs that I'm just kind of like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
who voted on this nonsense?
Yeah. Right.
So the AFC. Now we both have talked about this many a times. Patrick Mahomes is in the Pro Bowl and Josh Allen is not.
Oh gosh.
Yep.
No.
No, right. Like, so Josh Allen is fourth in yards or fourth in touchdowns, sixth in yards, third in QBR. Like, he is legit.
You're
Like
so
an
upset we
MVP
got Blair
candidate.
Witch.
Oh yeah, I knocked my phone over. Um,
That's no debate.
why does it keep fall? I had it in a perfect spot. It has not fallen this entire time. Now that I'm
Oh,
on this rant, it needs to fall.
yes. Yes.
Patrick Mahomes is just in the Pro Bowl and just got voted in. I know Pro Bowls don't mean anything, but they mean things to contracts and all pros and stuff like that.
Right.
The dude is not playing very well.
He's
He's not
he's
playing well.
AFC Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, right now he is. Yeah, and I mean he's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I won't say Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is outside the top 10 in like every category.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes is like he's like eighth in something, sixth. But Josh Allen literally is an MVP candidate.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he has been on a tear.
Yeah.
Any like
He has
I
like
love
40
this.
touchdowns.
Yeah, he has the most total touchdowns in the season, and then
Yes.
he's the only player in history to have 40 total touchdowns in like 4 seasons straight.
Yep.
How is he not in the Pro Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's one thing to be in the Pro Bowl and then say, no, I'm not going to the Pro Bowl because it's stupid. And I fully think that.
yeah,
But yeah, Mahomes is not anywhere good as a quarterback this season. I know he's got some numbers that are up there, but man, I'm telling you, man, watch Patrick Mahomes play. It's bad. It is like really, really bad. So yeah, he should not be in for the AFC. And my guess is you're going to go on the NFC and you're going to say Amon-Ra St. Brown, correct?
no, not even close, not even close. I I am in Homer category right now.
Okay.
Matthew Stafford is 12th in touchdowns, 11th in yards, and he is in the Pro Bowl.
Oh,
Jordan Love is second in touchdowns, seventh in yards, ninth in QBR, and he is not even close to being voted in.
when do they do the vote on this? Like mid-season or how's this
No
work?
idea. No idea. But the results just came out this week. So I'm
Yeah.
sitting there going, how are these guys? How is Matthew? Even if it was the middle of the season, wasn't Matthew Stafford hurt?
Yeah. He
Like,
was.
what are we doing? What are we doing?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like Matt Stafford is a really solid quarterback when he's out there. But even in the NFC, I mean, like if I'm looking at the top quarterbacks, like yeah, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, and the Brock Purdy with the 49ers.
Yeah,
Those are my three right there.
boom,
I'm going with those three. That's no debate.
no debate.
So
And
like
even Jared Goff was having a solid season. Like
sort of
I'd have been like, okay, he was hot for a
right.
good majority. But like I'm just like, what are we doing? Like Jordan Love wasn't even close. Not even close.
No. Yeah, like it's got to be time of when they voted. And plus, I think Jordan Love really took on the last month of the season. So I think
Yeah.
that probably is why people didn't really notice, or whenever this voting occurs, it is what it is.
But
But I feel like that's the determining factor, which sucks.
that doesn't even that wouldn't even work because the Rams were horrible. The Rams they were
Exactly.
literally horrible. There is no reason
Exactly.
Matthew Stafford should be voted in. If they did it at the beginning or like middle of the season, he was hurt and they
Yeah.
were bad.
Yeah.
If they did it in the last couple of weeks, Jordan Love has been better than everybody.
Exactly.
Literally everybody.
Everybody in the NFL. So yeah, like I really don't see that. My snub definitely on the NFC side is Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you take any of Amon-Ra St. Brown's stats, whether it's yards, touchdowns, or I want to say receptions, he's always the fifth best receiver in the entire NFL.
Yeah.
And not only that, he plays slot. So the only guy that's ahead of him in the entire conference is CeeDee Lamb. That's it. So like there's nobody within the slot position that is better than him that is not CeeDee Lamb. There
Yeah.
isn't. Yeah.
Blows my mind.
Yeah. So it's pretty wild, pretty crazy how that works. So yeah, some of that Pro Bowl stuff. But then again, I don't even watch the Pro Bowl because it's terrible. And why watch that when I can watch some meaningful college basketball game on a Saturday that no one knows about?
Hey, and okay, so number 5, this one might hit a nerve
Okay.
with some of our viewers out there.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
This one's gonna be out of left field. All right, this guy only played 9 years in the NFL. He was a 3-time All-Pro. He is 34th in all-time yards and 26th in touchdowns. Does that make him a Hall of Famer?
Go through that stat. Go through those numbers one more time.
Okay. 9 years.
Yep.
Only played 9 years.
Yep.
3 all-pro teams.
Yep.
34th in yards, 26th in touchdowns.
No.
That's how I feel too. So I wanted to give you a blind test before I said the name because for some reason when I say the name, this entire weekend has been going up in flames. But I'm talking about Calvin Johnson, Megatron.
Oh yeah. No, I totally agree. And there's been like a couple of seasons where Calvin Johnson's fantastic. I
Yep.
give you that. But there are plenty of other seasons where like, wow, like fantasy owners got burned by that guy multiple years. I even think
Yeah.
I was one of them at one point. Um, he's a really great talent. I give you that, but he is not a Hall of Famer. No way. No.
And
Like to me, a guy like Anquan Bolden is way better than Calvin Johnson for sure.
agreed. And then I got these stats too, just in case. But he was over 1,500 yards twice. Remember, he only played 9 seasons.
Yeah,
Uh, he was over 10 touchdowns 4 times. So
yeah,
again, only 9 seasons. Like when I think of Hall of Famers, and I'm thinking of like Randy Moss and Jerry Rice, and I know those are the upper echelon of all wide receivers,
yeah.
but like when you talk to people about Megatron, he is in this like god-like figure of wide receivers, and I'm like, he
I've never talked to
actually,
those people.
yeah. Oh, I had a lot of these questions that I'm hitting you with today, and I thought that might be a good way to hit 5 up. Is like
Yep,
I talked to actual people,
yep.
literally like people got into arguments with me about Megatron, and I'm like, am I thinking about this wrong? So then I did some research when I got home, and I was like, yeah, his stats are bad. Like,
Yeah,
why do people think he's like, well, not bad. I'm not gonna say bad, but I'm
they're
like,
not that
why
great.
do people think he's like upper echelon of all receivers?
Yes.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I know he was bad with the media, but like to me, there was no denying that Terrell Owens is a Hall of Famer. And if
Yep.
I'm putting Terrell Owens in the Hall of Fame, then right after that, I'm putting Anquan Bolden. And they played together.
Yeah.
Like that was scary. I want to say too that San Francisco team actually beat the Green Bay Packers. Like that was a scary good San Francisco team back when Jeff Garcia was the quarterback. And those two wideouts, like they're the same guy, and they're both Hall of Fame. They're both phenomenal. It's like it's kind of like what Mahomes had with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey, but in this case, it's like you have two Travis Kelseys. That's pretty scary.
Yeah. And like longevity features in for me,
Yeah.
like to hit home with the Packers, like Sterling Sharp was by far like one of the best wide receivers of his time,
Yep.
but he only played, you know, couple like a handful like a Megatron type
Yes.
career because of
Yes.
injury. But
Yep.
like I can't
Not a
put a
Hall of
guy in the
Famer.
Hall of Fame. No.
No. And I've been hearing kind of reminds me at a different position the other player that I've heard that's had consideration for Hall of Fame, but to me just doesn't have the numbers. And still, I think about him like, okay, well, the quarterback before him was way better. Drew Brees. No, not Drew Brees. The quarterback after Drew Brees, Philip Rivers. I know his name's coming up. And I'm like, man, Philip Rivers is not Hall of Fame. Did absolutely nothing as when it came playoff time as an NFL quarterback, and that matters as well too. So
Right.
I cannot go Phillip Rivers Hall of Fame ever.
See, at least I can kind of push because longevity and his numbers are super inflated. Like
Yes,
I can understand the fight for Philip Rivers, but
yes,
like I can't for Megatron. Like
no. It's nice. It's good, but it's not like elite Hall of Fame worthy at all.
right, and it's not like he wasn't getting the ball thrown to him. Like I went through every single season of his, and it's like
Yeah,
Matthew Stafford's throwing for 4 or 5 thousand yards, like, and he's throwing it only to one guy.
yeah,
You should probably be hitting over 1,500 yards. No.
yeah. And there were plenty of games against the Green Bay Packers where like he did squat.
Yep.
Like he did nothing against Green Bay, and he's a force of nature. So I just I mean I like the guy a lot, but to me it kind of almost has this DK Metcalf feel about him, where it's like, wow, that
Yes.
guy's so good. Like, why are you not crazy productive week in, week out, season in, season out? Why is it now that in year 3 or 4 of DK Metcalf that we're finally getting DK Metcalf?
That's a great comparison because DK Metcalf's another guy for me that like he's a lot of hype, and it's like, well,
Show
okay,
me. Show me
yeah,
it.
yep,
And why is it now that it finally took off in a year that you finally drafted a rookie receiver to play the slot? Why is it that it finally took that? And then what's to say too? I mean, we're coming to the end of Tyler Lockett. What happens when that coverage goes to Metcalf?
yeah,
Then what? Because I think opposing defenses right now, they all recognize the number one receiver on that team flat out is Tyler Lockett. And there's a catch Lockett made on Sunday. I don't know how he made it. Like he's catching it behind his head, and the ball is just magically in his hands. I don't know what he does to catch that football, but Tyler Lockett just keeps making crazy play after crazy play. And I think too, I mean, this guy started when Doug Baldwin was finishing up,
yep.
and Doug Baldwin made a lot of crazy throws. I still go to the Super Bowl. I still back up that decision that you go to Doug Baldwin because he's just a monster of a receiver. And like that kind of style is why I think Tyler Lockett developed into such a great player, because he learned so much from Doug Baldwin.
Agreed. But yeah, that's the 5 up for today.
There we go. And that's no debate. So there we go, man. That's 5 up for no debate. Pretty good stuff. Pretty big show we got today. Good stuff. You got any video game behind you today?
That's a good question. I don't remember where we are on the list. Oh wait, yeah, maybe I do. I do. I
Okay.
think it's the last but not least N64 game
Ooh.
that we're and I can't flip my screen anymore.
Aw.
So you're gonna probably have to see it backwards.
Oh, it's backwards. No, it looks good. Oh, wait, maybe it is backwards. But it's NFL Blitz, I can tell you that.
It is NFL Blitz 2001.
Nice. That's a great one.
Oh, that's like Brett Favre-esque right there.
It is, and I always played NFL Blitz in the arcade, and you get a much more satisfaction feeling from feeling that joystick of you sacking a player and your player is actually making that movement on the screen. So something about using the joystick on the arcade console is just crazy satisfying.
Yeah, and hey, it's pretty close when it's N64 and you get to use a little joysticky thing.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Oh,
Exactly. Yeah, the controller of the N64 is probably one of the best controllers ever for a video game system. So pretty good stuff there. Yeah, that's no debate. I'd have a belt for you for today, but unfortunately we had some really cold weather outside and slushy weather, and I went outside and shoveled and everything got wet. So I'm not wearing any pants right now.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa. Whoa.
Like what's below the belt? That shall remain a mystery.
Yeah, we don't. This is a PG show.
That is true. That is true. It could be like one of those bootleg whiskey barrels. It could be that. No one knows. But yeah, there is no belt. No belt today. That's no
I'm at a
debate.
loss. I'm at a loss for words.
Hey, that is totally understandable. That's no debate. So there you go. There you go. That's that.
They're, they're
Yeah.
probably going to kick us off the airwaves for that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't argue against that. So, hey, we didn't show it anything. We kept it PG, but no belts, no belts. So what do you know? Yep,
That's probably a good way to end the show right there.
it is. It is. That's how you end a show. So for myself, Steve Metrics, and the top portion of myself, and to my left, your boy.
EJ TRIGGS, who is very shocked and confused.
Hey, that's okay. It happens. But together we are No Debate Sports, and that is No Debate. And let me find the buttons. There we go.